Commander Kim Dae had been quietly analyzing the Council's technology throughout the proceedings. He approached Li Jun with a grim expression. "Captain, I think I know why they never detected the swarm. Their entire sensor network is calibrated to detect conventional threats. The Void Swarm operates on principles they've never encountered. This revelation changed everything. If the Galactic Council was blind to the swarm's approach, then every peaceful species in the galaxy was in mortal danger. Li Jun made a decision that would either save countless lives or doom humanity's chances of membership. High Arbiter, he called out. I request permission to share critical intelligence that affects the security of all council members. The chamber buzzed with confused murmurs. Representative Quintal objected loudly. This is clearly a desperate attempt to deflect attention from their violent nature. We should not be manipulated by fear tactics. But the High Arbiter was intrigued. Speak, human, but understand that false testimony before this council carries severe penalties. Li Jun activated his personal datapad and transmitted the fleet's long-range sensor data to the council's systems. The Void Swarm is approximately 18 months away from your outer territories. Our running battle wasn't a retreat, it was a fighting withdrawal designed to gather intelligence on their movement patterns. Science Officer Nam Yunbi supplemented the data with her analysis. The swarm follows galactic spiral arms, consuming everything in their path. Based on their current trajectory, they'll reach the crystalline hegemony's outer colonies within 20 standard months. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Several representatives began frantically consulting their own sensor networks, only to confirm that they detected nothing where the human data indicated a massive threat. Ambassador Veltar's crystalline form shifted colors rapidly, indicating extreme distress. If this information is accurate, why did you not contact us immediately upon detecting this threat? Admiral Song Hyun-woo's response was blunt. Because we didn't know you existed until 3 days ago. Humanity has been fighting for survival in isolation, believing we were the only spacefaring intelligence in our local region. The truth was stark and uncomfortable. Humanity had been unknowingly serving as the galaxy's first line of defense against an extinction-level threat. Their blood-stained ships weren't evidence of savagery, but proof of sacrifice in a war the rest of the galaxy didn't even know was being fought. Dr. Choi Young-min added the final piece of the puzzle. Our analysis suggests that conventional Council military technology would be largely ineffective against the swarm. They adapt to energy-based weapons within hours, and their biomechanical nature makes them immune to most traditional warfare. Tactics. The question hanging in the air was obvious but unspoken. If the peaceful, advanced civilizations of the Galactic Council couldn't fight the Void Swarm, who could? Captain Li Jun was tired, really tired. His eyes were red from too much fighting and too little sleep. The command chair of the battlecruiser Iron Phoenix felt like it was made of stone under his aching body. 27 human ships came out of hyperspace like wounded animals running from a pack of hunters. Each ship was badly damaged with black burn marks and holes in their metal skin. The 3-week battle they just escaped from was the worst one yet. The Void Swarm had chased them across 4-star systems, and Li Jun had lost count of how many good people died just to get them here alive. The air on the bridge smelled like smoke and metal and fear. Park Mina. The communications officer looked like she had not slept in days. Her uniform was dirty and her hands shook a little when she worked at her station captain. We are getting a message, Park Mina said. Her voice was rough and tired. It is coming on the big space frequency that all the aliens use. Li Jun sat up straight, in his chair even though his back hurt. The main screen came to life and showed something that made everyone on the bridge stop what they were doing. An alien was looking at them through the screen. This alien had skin that looked like crystal, and forearms that moved in a way that seemed too smooth to be real. Human fleet, the alien said in perfect human language. Even though its voice sounded like a machine talking, I am Ambassador Veltar of the Crystalline Hegemony. You are summoned to appear before the Galactic Council within 72 standard hours. Your species application for membership will be reviewed. Li Jun looked over at Commander Kim Dae, who was sitting at the weapons station. Kim Dae looked just as confused as Li Jun. felt nobody had told them anything about applying to join some galactic council. They had been too busy fighting for their lives against the Void Swarm for the past 5 years. Humans barely controlled their own small piece of space. And now someone was talking about galactic membership. "We accept the invitation," Li Jun said, even though he felt like he was walking into a dark room without knowing what was inside. After the alien turned off the message, Li Jun called for an emergency meeting. All his top officers came to the war room, which was a small, cramped space that had seen too many meetings about how to survive another day. The war room walls were covered with battle maps and damage reports. The table in the middle was scratched and dented from where angry fists had hit it during heated arguments about strategy. Chief Engineer Osu Jin looked at her datapad and shook her head. "Sir, our ships are in terrible shape," she said. "We have holes in 12 ships, and the Defiant is running on emergency power only. Half our weapons are broken and we do not have spare parts to fix them." Commander Kim Dae leaned forward on the table and looked serious. "More important than our broken ships is that we do not know anything about this Galactic Council. For all we know, this could be a trap. Maybe the Void Swarm learned how to copy alien voices. Maybe they want to trick us into flying into their teeth." Li Jun looked around the table at the faces of his officers. These people had followed him through hell and back. They had watched their friends die and their homes burn, and they still trusted him to make the right choices. They were good people, the best humanity had to offer, and they deserved better than the endless war they had been fighting. "We go as we are." Li Jun decided, "We do not have time to fix our ships, and maybe it is better this way. Let them see what humanity has been fighting. Let them see what we have sacrificed." Lieutenant Bei Gi Tai, who was their best person for talking to aliens, raised his hand. "Captain, what if they judge us badly because our ships look like we just came from a war zone? What if they think we are too violent to join their council? Then they will learn who we really are." Li Jun answered, "We are not violent because we like violence. We are violent because something tried to kill us all and we refused to die quietly." The fleet set course for the coordinates the crystal alien had given them as they traveled through hyperspace. Li Jun walked through the ship looking at his crew. They were fixing broken equipment and treating wounded friends and trying to make their weapons work better. Everyone looked tired and hurt, but nobody complained. Nobody asked why they were going to meet aliens instead of going home to rest. In the medical bay, Dr. Nam Hyun was working on a wounded pilot who had been burned when his fighter crashed into a Void Swarm hunter. The pilot was young, maybe 20 years old, and he kept asking if his wingman had made it home safe. Dr. Nam lied and said yes because the wingman had died 3 days ago, and the young pilot did not need to know that yet. Down in engineering, Oh Soo-jin and her team were working magic with broken parts and spare wire. They had managed to get life support working on all the ships, and most of the engines were running well enough to get them where they needed to go. Oh Soo-jin was covered in grease and had a cut on her forehead, but she was still working because that is what engineers do in the hangar bay. The fighter pilots were checking their small ships for the 100th time. Even though they were going to a peaceful meeting, the pilots knew that trouble had a way of finding them. Commander Park Ji-ho was telling his squadron that they needed to be ready for anything, because in his experience, alien invitations often came with alien problems. As the hours passed, Li Jun found himself thinking about Earth and the colonies they had left behind. Millions of people were depending on this small fleet to keep the Void Swarm busy while they evacuated or built defenses. The responsibility felt like a weight on his chest that got heavier every day. How could he explain to some galactic council that humanity had never asked for this war, but they were going to finish it anyway? The bloodstains on their ship hulls told a story that most civilized people would not understand. Each dark mark represented a friend who died fighting creatures that wanted to eat entire planets. Each scratch and dent was proof that humans would not go quietly into the dark. They had been fighting alone for so long that the idea of other intelligent species seemed almost impossible. When the fleet finally reached the meeting coordinates, Li Jun could not shake the feeling that they were about to change everything. The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming their way, and Li Jun was not sure if that was good or bad for humanity. All he knew was that 27 battered human ships were about to show the galaxy what real fighting looked like. The chamber erupted in a symphony of alien languages as representatives voiced their concerns. Translator devices struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations, but the tone was unmistakably hostile. Li Jun watched as species after species stood to condemn humanity based on the appearance of their fleet. "These creatures bring the stench of death into our sacred halls," declared Ambassador Veltar, despite having been the one to invite them. "Look at their vessels, scarred by countless battles. What peaceful species travels with such instruments of war?" Admiral Song Hyun-woo raised her hand for permission to speak. When the chamber quieted, her voice carried clearly across the vast space. "Honored representatives, you judge us by the condition of our ships without asking why they bear these scars." "The why matters little," interrupted Chancellor Mordek of the Harmony Collective. "Violence is violence. We have maintained peace for 12 centuries by excluding species that resort to warfare. Your very presence here suggests you are unfit for membership." Technical specialist Han Ji-woo stepped forward with a portable holoprojector. "May we show you what we have been fighting?" she asked. The High Arbiter's energy field pulsed thoughtfully. "You may present evidence, but be warned that any attempt to justify violence will only strengthen the case against you." The hologram that materialized in the center of the chamber showed the void swarm in all its terrifying glory. Billions of biomechanical entities that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. The assembled representatives fell silent as they watched human colonies disappearing under waves of alien predators. "This is what we call the void swarm," Admiral Song Hyun-woo explained. "They appeared in our space 5 years ago and have been systematically destroying everything in their path. We didn't choose this war. It was forced upon us." Dr. Choi Young-min, the fleet's xenobiologist, added more technical details. "Our analysis suggests they're not native to this galaxy. They consume all organic and synthetic matter, converting it into more of themselves. Every world they touch becomes a dead husk." The reaction from the council was mixed. Some representatives seemed genuinely horrified by the images, while others remained skeptical. It was Ambassador Trayina of the Advanced Thinkers who asked the critical question: if such a threat existed, why were we not informed? Our sensor networks monitor all galactic sectors. Li Jun realized they had stumbled into something much more complex than a simple membership application. The Galactic Council's peaceful existence might depend on willful ignorance of threats like the Void Swarm. The Galactic Council station was massive beyond human comprehension. Shaped like a great ring spinning slowly in the void, it housed representatives from 47 different species. As the human fleet approached, they received docking instructions that directed them to a section clearly designed for smaller, more elegant vessels. Admiral Song Hyun-woo, the highest-ranking officer in the fleet, transferred to Li Jun's ship for the meeting. She was a veteran of the Outer Colony Wars and carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen humanity's worst and best moments. "Captain, I've reviewed what little intelligence we have on the Council," she said as they prepared to disembark. "They've been around for over 2,000 years. Most member species are highly advanced, peaceful, and have never faced an extinction-level threat." The docking bay they entered was pristine white, filled with flowing organic architecture that seemed to grow rather than be built. Other ambassadors moved through the space on platforms that floated silently above the ground. Many stopped to stare at the humans as they walked past, their environmental suits still bearing scorch marks and makeshift repairs. Lieutenant Bae Gi-tae, their diplomatic aide, whispered urgently to Li Jun, "Sir, I'm detecting some very sophisticated scanning equipment. They're analyzing everything about us, including our weapons and ship capabilities." The council chamber itself was a vast amphitheater with representatives arranged in a complex three-dimensional pattern. Each species had its own environmental section, some underwater, others in gas clouds or under intense radiation. At the center stood a platform where petitioners would present their cases. As they were escorted to the center, Li Jun noticed something troubling. Many of the representatives were staring at them with what appeared to be disgust or fear. The pristine environment made the humans look like barbarians who had stumbled into a temple. The High Arbiter, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, spoke with a voice that resonated through both air and bone. The species, known as humanity, seeks membership in the Galactic Council. Present your case. Admiral Song Hyun-woo stepped forward, but before she could speak, Representative Quintal of the Peaceful Merchants raised an objection. High Arbiter, these beings arrive with ships of war, stained with the evidence of violence. How can we consider admitting a species that clearly solves its problems through destruction? The council chamber erupted into chaos as the full implications of humanity's revelation became clear. Representatives who had condemned the humans minutes earlier were now desperately seeking solutions to a threat their peaceful civilizations were unprepared to face. Chancellor Mordek of the Harmony Collective stood slowly. If what you say is true, then we face a choice between our principles and our survival. We have built our society on the rejection of violence. And that rejection may have doomed you all, replied Admiral Song Hyun-woo without malice. The universe doesn't care about our principles. Sometimes survival requires getting your hands dirty. Technical specialist Han Ji-woo presented tactical data that painted a grim picture. Based on our combat experience with the swarm, conventional council forces would suffer catastrophic losses in any direct engagement. However, we've developed countermeasures that show promise. The High Arbiter's energy field pulsed rapidly as it processed vast amounts of data. The evidence presented is compelling. However, accepting this species into the Council would require us to fundamentally reconsider our core values. It was then that an unexpected voice joined the debate. Ambassador Kreltak of the Warrior. Clans, a species that had been ostracized by the Council for their martial culture, spoke from his isolated section. Perhaps it's time to admit that your evolved civilization has been living in a bubble of protection provided by those you consider beneath you. The truth was uncomfortable but undeniable. Humanity had been fighting the galaxy's war without recognition, support, or even knowledge of who they were protecting. Their scarred ships and weary crews were the only thing standing between the Galactic Council and extinction. Chief Engineer Oh Soo-jin provided the technical details that would determine the next steps. Our weapons and tactics are specifically designed to counter swarm adaptation patterns. We can share this technology, but implementing it will require significant changes to Council military doctrine. The debate continued for hours, touching on philosophy, survival, and the nature of civilization itself. Some representatives argued that accepting violent methods would corrupt their advanced society. Others recognized that extinction was a higher price than moral compromise. Finally, the High Arbiter called for silence. The Council faces an unprecedented decision. We can maintain our principles and likely face extinction, or we can adapt and compromise our values for survival. Lee Jun stood to address the chamber one final time. Honored representatives, we didn't come here seeking to change your society. We came responding to your invitation, carrying the scars of a war we've been fighting alone. The question isn't whether humanity deserves membership in your council. The question is whether you want to survive what's coming. The vote was close, but the practical reality of the Void Swarm threat ultimately prevailed. Humanity was granted emergency membership status with full military cooperation agreements. More importantly, the Galactic Council began the painful process of acknowledging that their peaceful existence had been built on the sacrifices of others. As the human fleet prepared to return to the front lines, now accompanied by Council support, vessels and technical teams, Lee Jun reflected on the day's events. They had arrived as desperate survivors and left as the galaxy's recognized guardians. Their blood-stained ships were no longer symbols of shame but badges of honor earned in humanity's finest hour. The war against the Void Swarm was far from over, but for the first time in 5 years, humanity wouldn't fight alone. The galaxy had finally awakened to the price of peace and the value of those willing to pay it.